Hey there, awesome viewers. Welcome back to Manhwa Empire Recap. Before we dive into today's recap, we want to hear from you. Drop your favorite genre of manhwa or manga in the comments below, and let us know where you're watching from. Your feedback helps us bring you the content you love. Now, let's jump into today's recap and explore the incredible stories we have for you.
3 years in the past, the planet experienced a catastrophic event. The animals and plants began to undergo distinct evolutionary changes. The entire civilization was profoundly impacted by this shift, resulting in numerous casualties. To safeguard the world, humans have tapped into the power to command monsters and deploy them in battles. Gao Peng, a typical high school student, tragically lost his parents during the cataclysm. He found solace and protection in the company of his housekeeper and guardian, Jai Hanwu. Out of the blue, Gao Peng awakened a mysterious system. Gao Peng couldn't shake the thought that the cataclysm might have also led to the disappearance of his grandfather. In that crucial moment, Gao Peng could only focus on one thing when confronted with danger. He resolved to succeed in evolving an epic, high-grade monster. However, the creation of the high-grade monster was merely the start of his journey. In the classroom, they were discussing the cataclysmic events that occurred. The teacher was explaining the term used to describe humans who have undergone awakening. She reminded her students to recall the information she had imparted, emphasizing that all the key points would be tested. Shortly after, the bell chimed, signaling the end of the class. As she prepared to depart, she announced to the class that there would be an examination on animal breeding, inviting interested students to attend with their parents. At the end of class, Gao Peng swiftly exits the school. Gao Peng, a student at Chang'an High School, harbored dreams of becoming an imperial ambassador. Lately, he encountered some trouble. He frequently encountered strange interfaces, resembling systems, which left him bewildered. Gao Peng led a tranquil existence. On his way home, he encountered something unusual. He was taken aback by what he saw, prompting him to ponder what had occurred. He encountered a monster that displayed information, confirming to him that the system he had seen was not a hallucination. He recalled that the spider monster was raised by a neighbor, an elderly grandma. Suddenly, the spider began to act aggressively. Gao Peng quickly dodged, realizing that the spider was attacking him. Quickly, he ran up the stairs, attempting to call Grandma Chen as the spider continued its attack. The spider then used its web to ensnare Gao Peng, but it was unsuccessful. When he turned around, he saw that the spider was closing in on him. He couldn't believe how quickly the spider had caught up to him, and panic set in as he scrambled to figure out what to do. Suddenly, he remembered the system mentioning that the spider's weakness was flame, so he hastily retrieved a lighter. Quickly, he hurled the lighter towards the spider. The spider was engulfed in flames, bringing its advance to a halt. However, Gao Peng realized that the flames were too small and not enough to weaken the spider. Shortly after, the spider regained its composure. The spider fixed its gaze on him, poised to launch another attack. Then Gao Peng saw in the system that the spider was enraged. Gao Peng hurriedly ran towards his home, knowing that his familiar would be there to protect him. As he ran upstairs, the spider continued its relentless assault. Shortly, he was close to his door, almost within reach of safety. On the other hand, the spider was poised to leap at him. Gao Peng called out to his familiar, and his door quickly opened. His familiar, Big Purple Daisy, quickly defended Gao Peng against the spider's attack. Big Purple swiftly came to Gao Peng's defense. On the other hand, the spider was trembling and weakened. Gao Peng's familiar stood behind him, poised and ready to protect him. The spider quickly scurried away moments later. Gao Peng observed as the frightened spider departed, and he had no intention of catching it. Out of the blue, his familiar nudged him, transforming into a non-combative form, clearly irritated by his tardiness and lack of food. The monsters are categorized into two distinct forms, the combat form and the non-combat form. Gao Peng patted Dazzie's head reassuringly, promising to feed him immediately. They rushed indoors swiftly, as Gao Peng prepared to whip up a meal in record time. Gao Peng hurriedly made his way to the kitchen, ready to whip up a meal. He retrieved a piece of meat and prepared to use his skills to prepare it. Gao Peng's hands swiftly sliced off pieces of meat. In an instant, the meat was transformed into small, bite-sized pieces. Shortly after, he had already finished cooking the meal for Dazzie. Dazzie couldn't help but drool at the sight and smell of the food. Gao Peng quickly handed the food to Dazzie, cautioning him to eat slowly and avoid choking. As he looked at Dazzie, an interface suddenly appeared before him. When he glanced at Dazzie's information, he was taken aback by what he saw. He couldn't believe his eyes as he processed the information before him. He was astonished to discover that Dazzie had the potential to be promoted to an elite quality. The quality of monsters is divided into three categories: ordinary, elite, and perfect. The higher the quality, the greater the potential of the monster. He reasoned that if Dazzie could be promoted to elite quality, then there was a possibility for him to be further promoted to perfect quality afterward. Gao Peng hugged Dazzie in excitement, promising to do everything in his power to ensure that he would be promoted to elite quality. But Dazzie, confused and unable to comprehend his words, simply gazed back at Gao Peng with uncertainty. Shortly after, he decided to examine the requirements needed for Dazzie's promotion. He discovered that Dazzie's promotion required certain items. As he reviewed the list, he contemplated the prices of the required items. Shortly after, he exited the system, concluding that the required items were too expensive. He realized that he couldn't afford it, especially since their money had been converted into credits after the establishment of the New World Alliance. Furthermore, he realized that his credit points weren't sufficient to obtain the materials needed for Dazzie's promotion. He realized that if he were to pursue Dazzie's upgrade, he wouldn't have enough resources for the rest of the days. Shortly after, Dazzie finished his food and informed Gao Peng that he was still hungry. Dazzie grew angry because Gao Peng refused to give him more food. But eventually, Gao Peng agreed to provide more food. He quickly gave him another bowl and cautioned him not to upset his stomach. As he looked at Dazzie, he couldn't help but ponder over the issue of money for Dazzie's promotion. Suddenly, he recalled the information from the system. He suddenly thought that perhaps he could become a monster trainer. He realized that becoming a trainer wasn't easy. So Gao Peng was excited about the idea and the prospect of earning money. But then, he suddenly remembered that there would be a monster trainer exam tomorrow. He quickly retrieved his phone and decided to register for the exam. Then he noticed there were only 3 minutes left to register. He hastily pressed yes to register. The system then loaded and instructed him to wait. Shortly after, he successfully registered for the exam. Gao Peng was relieved and happy that he managed to catch up in time. The following morning, Gao Peng rose early from bed and departed. He knocked on his neighbor's door, with Dazzie tagging along behind him. Before long, the door swung open, and Hanwoo greeted him, still groggy from sleep. Gao Peng felt awkward noticing Hanwoo's attire. Furthermore, Hanwoo asked him why he had come to see her so early in the morning. Gao Peng promptly explained to her that he was about to take the monster trainer's exam. He introduced Dazzie and expressed his desire for her to take care of Dazzie for a few days. Hanwoo quickly accepted and reassured Gao Peng not to worry. Upon hearing this, Gao Peng felt relieved and happy, knowing that he could take the exams with peace of mind, knowing Dazzie would be in good hands. Shortly after, Gao Peng bid goodbye to Hanwoo. She then glanced at Dazzie and pondered aloud how Gao Peng ended up with a companion like it. Upon hearing this, Dazzie became angry and lunged towards Hanwoo. But she swiftly calmed him down, advising him to relax as the old man would be furious if he found out. Hanwoo and Daisy entered the house, and Hanwoo immediately dialed the old man's number. She informed him that Gao Peng had an ordinary beast. The old man became angry and instructed Hanwoo to advise Gao Peng about the beast. As she rose to her feet, she explained that she couldn't persuade him, as the beasts were left by Gao Peng's parents, who were the old man's daughter and son-in-law. She then inquired if he had finished his business. Moreover, she suggested to the old man that they could simply eliminate the stubborn ones and replace them with obedient ones. As she glanced at Gao Peng from outside, she reassured the old man not to worry about Gao Peng. She asserted that Gao Peng wouldn't be in danger with her presence there. Shortly after, Hanwoo hung up the phone. The chairman of a large company phoned his secretary. He informed her that he would be granting the lab 5 months to accomplish their objectives, and if they couldn't, they could depart. The secretary then assured him that she would relay the message. The old man was Gao Peng's grandfather, and he was thrilled to see his grandson. He couldn't wait for them to see each other again, and he promised to protect him. At the Chang'an City Monster Division, people were gathering in droves. Gao Peng was amazed by the sheer number of people who had registered to become monster trainers. Suddenly, someone called out his name. He turned around and saw his friend waving at him. Lai Zigong, along with Zhang Hong and Lai Hongdu, were with his friend. Gao Peng quickly greeted the woman and addressed her as Auntie. The 2 siblings came with their mom to take the exam. The brother was playfully hit by his sister, as he mocked her for not passing the exam 3 times before. His brother couldn't believe that she smacked him, but she didn't seem to care. Shortly, Gao Peng then informed them that he was there to take the exam. As a result, the 3 of them were caught by surprise. Shortly after, his auntie came close and patted his shoulder. She tried to boost his confidence and told him that it's good to be ambitious while he was still young. Gao Peng then said that he just came to test out his luck. Suddenly, someone spoke and interrupted their conversation. A strange man told them that they weren't fit to be called monster trainers because they were so low. He mocked them, saying that even a dog or a cat could participate. Lai Zigong got angry, but his sister held him back. The man continued speaking, suggesting that even a kid would aspire to be a trainer. Suddenly, Gao Peng mocked the man for talking too much, which made the man angry. The man then prepared to leave, stating that they would see about it. Lai Zigong's mother informed him that the man was the son of the Wang group and had failed the exam 4 consecutive times. Suddenly, they noticed the door beginning to open, and Gao Peng's attention was fixed on it. A group of guards emerged as Feng Ziyu, the chief examiner of the Chang'an Monster Trainers Division, stepped out and announced that the exam was starting immediately. Soon after, the examinees were allowed to enter the building. Feng Ziyu greeted the examiners and announced that the tiers were split into 2 levels. Gao Peng, being one of the examiners, attentively listened. Additionally, Feng Ziyu declared that the initial phase would be a written examination, and success would be determined by accurately describing the monsters featured in the video. Without further delay, Feng Ziyu announced that the examination was commencing. The creature depicted in the video was an aquatic animal. Its appearance suggested that it was a mammal. As the creature emerged from the water, its identity became evident. After the video concluded, the television screen turned off. Feng Ziyu then informed them that they had 20 minutes to contemplate their responses to the first video. The examiners panicked, unsure of what to do, as they lacked any idea about the type of monster featured. As a consequence, Feng Ziyu grew angry and warned them that any noise or attempt at cheating would result in punishment, including expulsion from the examination room. Upon hearing this, the examiners began to maintain silence. Wang Shu, the son of the Wang group, was confident that he could answer confidently as he had obtained the exam questions in advance. He then glanced at Gao Peng with irritation evident on his face. On the contrary, Gao Peng remained confident, as he had access to information about the monster. He accessed the information about the monster through his system. Quickly, he transcribed the information he had seen onto his paper. Shortly thereafter, the next video was played. The video depicted the appearance of a monkey. The monkey exhibited heightened senses and appeared alert in its surroundings. The monkey displayed aggression and hurled the banana it held through the screen. Since Gao Peng already had access to the monster's information, he had already written down its description. Next, the third and final video for the examination was played. The creature in the video resembled an insect-like figure. As the monster turned around, its appearance resembled that of a grasshopper. The monster exhibited speed and demonstrated a high skill in jumping. Once more, Gao Peng could see the information about the monster and swiftly transcribed it onto his paper. Shortly thereafter, the examination time had already elapsed. Feng Ziyu then informed them that their papers would be collected at the conclusion of the examination. As they passed their papers, they were instructed to await their results and not to leave the premises. As time passed, an hour had gone by since the exam had concluded. Feng Ziyu brought out the papers and announced that he would disclose the list of qualified individuals. Shortly after, Feng Ziyu announced the names of the successful candidates. Gao Peng's auntie was ecstatic when she heard her name called out. Wang Shu's name was also called, and he showed no surprise, as he had anticipated his success. Shortly after, Feng Ziyu ceased calling out names. He then informed them that although the names called out had mistakes, they had successfully passed the exams. Wang Shu whispered and mocked Gao Peng, pointing out that his name hadn't been called. Gao Peng then wondered if there had been a mistake. Suddenly, Feng Ziyu spoke up and asked who among them was named Gao Peng. Quickly, Gao Peng stood up and identified himself. Feng Ziyu praised him, expressing surprise that he had achieved a perfect score in the exam. The examiners looked at Gao Peng with surprise evident on their faces. Gao Peng smiled upon hearing Feng Ziyu's praise. He then glanced at Wang Shu and mocked him for underestimating him, which irritated Wang Shu. Following the completion of the initial test, Feng Ziyu and the examiners proceeded to the second venue for the subsequent examination. Gao Peng was taken aback by the sheer size of the location. Upon their arrival, Feng Ziyu warmly greeted them and extended a welcome to the venue. He then outlined that their second test would entail enhancing the quality of their monsters within a week in order to pass. He assured them that all the materials required for the evaluation process would be provided by the association. However, Feng Ziyu cautioned them that failing to improve the quality would result in them having to pay the market price for the materials used during the evaluation. Upon hearing this, some examiners became apprehensive about the possibility of failing the test. Suddenly, the sound of someone clapping their hands filled the room. Lai Jin, the supervisor of the division, arrived and instructed them to collect their room cards one by one. The examiners formed a line and proceeded to collect their room cards one by one as instructed. Meanwhile, Gao Peng pondered the possibility of encountering various types of monsters during the evaluation process. Wang Shu watched Gao Peng from behind, harboring a desire for revenge due to Gao Peng's previous mockery. As Gao Peng received his card, he hoped that luck would be on his side and that he would draw a favorable assignment. As he picked up his card, Lai Jin sensed something about him. He maintained a sarcastic smile, though he didn't outwardly display it. His aunt approached him and showed him her room number, then inquired about his. So, Gao Peng informed her that he had been assigned room number 10. Shortly after, they were instructed to locate their assigned room numbers. Feng Ziyu then announced that the second test had begun. Shortly after, Gao Peng arrived at the 10th room. He was greeted by the individual in charge of overseeing the room. Quickly, the person opened the door. As the door opened, Gao Peng felt a surge of terror wash over him. He noticed that the appearance of the monster was unlike any he had ever seen before. Then he was surprised to see that in his system, the monster's status was in a negative state. Gao Peng quickly asked the man what had happened to the ape, and the man explained that it was caused by too many experiments. He explained that the Red River ape should have been eliminated, but due to the lack of other suitable monsters in the association, they had no choice but to keep it there. Earlier, before the exam, the man had been complaining to Lai Jin about including the ape on the assessment list. Lai Jin was instructed by Wang Shu to include the ape, indicating they were accomplices in the matter. Moreover, the man told Gao Peng that the Red River ape had only survived due to its own perseverance. But Gao Peng believed that he could still handle the situation. The Red River ape exuded a strong and ominous aura. Gao Peng then informed the man that he wished to proceed with the assessment of the ape. So, the man entrusted Gao Peng with the responsibility and left the decision to him. The man closed the door, and Gao Peng quickly positioned himself in front of the ape. When the ape looked at Gao Peng, it was visibly frightened and on the verge of tears. The ape remembered the previous experiments it had endured, and how those individuals had eventually given up on it. Suddenly, the ape turned aggressive. It roared at Gao Peng, releasing its pent-up rage. However, the ape suddenly came to a halt and began to tear up. It didn't expect that Gao Peng would show warmth towards it and not be scared, and Gao Peng reassured the ape that he would definitely help it evolve. In brief, Gao Peng quickly checked the requirements necessary for the ape's promotion. He was taken aback by the multiple promotion paths displayed by the system. He delved deeper and discovered the materials required for the ape's evolution. Gao Peng became concerned that the amount of materials required had surpassed the quantity allotted for the examination. So he made the decision that he would need to take a risk. He opted for the second option for the evolution process. Upon selecting it, the requirements and steps he needed to follow were presented to him. After some time, he handed a list of materials to the man to acquire. The man, intrigued by the list of materials, inquired of Gao Peng whether he intended to kill the ape or train it. Gao Peng reassured the man that there was no need to worry and that he was fully aware of what he was doing. Gao Peng's firm resolve left the man speechless as he closed the door. As he walked, he pondered that Gao Peng seemed to excel in verbal exchanges, but only displayed intelligence during written exams. 3 days later, as the examination progressed, the situation grew increasingly dire. The person assigned to the room too encountered a situation. Despite being injured, the person insisted on taking another test. Shortly after, the person in the 7th room felt disappointed as the monster was on the verge of being promoted. But something went wrong. Next, the person in room 8 began to act erratically due to the myriad of experiments swirling in his mind. Meanwhile, Gao Peng's experiment was still on the verge of completion, and he remained calm. He realized that the undead cores of the monster were also starting to take effect. At that moment, all Gao Peng needed to do was submerge the Red River ape in sulfuric acid water and let it soak. The guard handed him the key to the cage and cautioned him that the ape was aggressive. But Gao Peng believed that he still needed to take the risk. He realized that he couldn't back out now and could only hope for the best outcome. Before opening the cage, he instructed the ape to be obedient. Quickly, Gao Peng unlocked the cage. He opened it and instructed the ape to come out. Without delay, the ape emerged and dashed towards Gao Peng, then nuzzled up to him. Gao Peng felt relieved that the ape wasn't aggressive and seemed to have a warm personality. Shortly after, they went to the bathroom where Gao Peng showed the ape the bathtub where it would bathe. The ape hesitated to enter the water, seemingly deterred by its unappealing appearance. Suddenly, the ape began to pluck a few strands of hair on itself. It tossed the strands of hair into the bathtub. The ape became frightened by the outcome of its actions. It quickly informed Gao Peng that it couldn't bathe in the water. However, Gao Peng reassured the ape to trust him, promising to imbue it with strength. Hearing this, the ape felt enlightened and hopeful. As a result, it began to reconsider its initial reluctance. Shortly after, the ape felt determined and ready to proceed. The ape swiftly went to the bathtub. He allowed his body to soak in the water. Suddenly, the ape and the water started to emit a strong energy. Their actions were being watched by the CCTV camera positioned above them. When the fire alarm went off, the security personnel were startled. They promptly sprang into action and fetched a fire extinguisher. The guards rushed to room 10 in a state of panic, wondering what had occurred. Wang Shu then believed that Gao Peng was in trouble and that his evil plan had succeeded. The guards briskly walked as the fire alarm blared. They forcefully kicked the door open. However, they were taken aback by the scene that greeted them. The guards only encountered billowing smoke with no sign of fire in the vicinity. As the smoke slowly dissipated, Gao Peng became clearly visible to them. The chief guard explained that they had responded because he had triggered the alarm. Gao Peng quickly apologized and explained that he had been so preoccupied that he hadn't noticed triggering the alarm. As the misunderstanding was resolved, Brother Zhu reported that room 10 had been cleared. The alarm also sounded, and shortly after, Feng Ziyu along with Lai Jin arrived, asking what had happened. A man whispered to him that it was a vision caused by the cultivation of a monster. Outside, a crowd had gathered due to the commotion, gossiping about what had transpired. Wang Shu smiled, thinking that Gao Peng's experiment had failed. Suddenly, the tub began to undergo a transformation. Bubbles began to emerge from the water. To their astonishment, a hand reached out from the water. Slowly, the hand revealed the new appearance of the Red River Ape. The onlookers, including Wang Shu, were surprised by its appearance. The Red River Ape began to slowly emerge from the water. Finally, it revealed its full appearance to all the people present. Feng Ziyu, along with the others, were truly surprised by the results of Gao Peng's experiment. On the other hand, Gao Peng felt relieved that his experiment had succeeded and credited it to the system. The people grew increasingly excited by the new appearance of the monster. They were amazed by its appearance and couldn't take their eyes off it. Furthermore, Lai Jin informed Feng Ziyu that Gao Peng's experiments had led to the discovery of a new type of monster that had never been encountered before. Pondering this, Feng Ziyu was amazed by what Gao Peng had accomplished. He couldn't believe that someone as young as Gao Peng could achieve such a feat. Suddenly, Gao Peng realized that Feng Ziyu was still present. He turned around and quickly informed Feng Ziyu that he had succeeded. Suddenly, the monster attempted to grab Gao Peng's attention, seemingly trying to convey something to him. Gao Peng then reached out and grasped the monster's hands. He sensed that the monster was grateful for what he had done to help it evolve. The monster felt gratitude and warmth towards Gao Peng. Meanwhile, Lai Jin was contemplating that he should be the one to possess the monster. However, Feng Ziyu spoke up, noting that the monster seemed to rely heavily on Gao Peng. So Feng Ziyu decided to give the monster to Gao Peng, surprising everyone. Everyone was surprised to learn that Feng Ziyu was giving the monster to Gao Peng. Gao Peng also couldn't believe what he heard and asked twice to confirm if it was true. Feng Ziyu emphasized that what he did was introduce a new type of monster that had not been previously recorded. However, he assured him that it appeared to be successful, which is why he could keep it without losing anything. Upon hearing this, Gao Peng believed that he could potentially enhance the monster even further if he were to own it. Yet, Gao Peng also pondered how he could further upgrade it when it was already a rare type. Suddenly, Brother Zhu confronted Gao Peng and expressed amazement, stating that it couldn't possibly be the Red River Ape. The monster also felt a warmth towards Gao Peng for his assistance. Suddenly, Li Jin intervened and told Feng Zhu that his decision was not thought through properly. He informed them that monsters that evolve are awarded to the associated employees according to the rules. Suddenly, Wang Shu also intervened, suggesting that the monster should be eliminated. Li Jin also chimed in, expressing doubt that someone as young as Gao Peng could possibly handle the monster. Then, Wang Shu claimed that Gao Peng must have cheated. Feng Zhu then inquired about the cheating they were discussing, and Li Jin remarked that Gao Peng couldn't possibly have done it due to his young age. He added that Gao Peng's skill wasn't his true skill and seemed to be accidental. So Feng Zhu sought clarification, asking if Li Jin was suggesting that what Gao Peng did was planned. Hearing this, Feng Zhu fell silent for a minute, contemplating the situation. Suddenly, he burst into laughter. Shortly after, Feng Zhu suggested that they address the matter by allowing Gao Peng to showcase his skills. He urged Gao Peng to show the world that there is much more beyond what they currently perceive. Hearing this, as Gao Peng sighed, he asked them how he ended up in that trouble when all he wanted in the first place was a certificate. Gao Peng asked Wang Shu why he suggested that he cheated just because he's young. He also talked to Li Jin and confronted him about what he said. He told them they were incompetent and ignorant. Gao Peng told them that all they said was rubbish. Shortly after, he explained the existence of the Red River Ape. He informed them that even though it has a river in its name, it's not always found near water. Moreover, he said that past experiments had given the monster too much water and yin materials, which is why it had failed. Gao Peng explained that the weakness of the Red River Ape was its vulnerability to the yin system. However, Wang Shu didn't believe him. But Feng Zhu intervened and told Wang Shu that Gao Peng was right about the ape's weakness. Furthermore, Gao Peng explained that he had done the opposite of the previous experiment. He detailed the materials and items he used in the process of his experiment. Then, he firmly advised them not to toss ingredients around if they didn't know the exact amount needed, as it could endanger the life of a monster. Shortly after, Feng Zhu clapped his hands. He complimented Gao Peng and his generation for their resourcefulness, telling him that he would grant him his certificate as an immediate monster trainer. Gao Peng was glad to hear the news from Feng Zhu and expressed his gratitude. Shortly after, Feng turned to Li Jin and Wang Shu, addressing the remarks they had made earlier. Wang Shu was put on the spot regarding the accusation of cheating. Li Jin was also nervous about Feng Zhu's questions regarding the monster. As the situation escalated, more people were commenting on Wang Shu and Li Jin's actions. Suddenly, a person raised his hand and volunteered to testify. Brother Zhu admitted that it was Li Jin who deliberately added the Red River Ape to the assessment list. He also pointed out Wang Shu and said that Wang Shu was the one who ordered Li Jin. Hearing this, Wang Shu felt like his life was over. Finally, Feng Zhu announced that Wang Shu would not be allowed to participate in the exam for 3 years, and Li Jin would be fired from his position. Hearing this, the people were glad and thought that they deserved it. Shortly after, Feng Zhu asked Gao Peng if they could talk in his office and have a cup of tea. Gao Peng was surprised when Feng Zhu mentioned that he also had a small favor to ask him. At last, Gao Peng was granted his official certification as a monster trainer. Receiving the certificate brought Gao Peng immense joy, and as an added bonus, he also acquired another companion. Within moments, the bus arrived, prompting Gao Peng to swiftly board it. As he rode, Gao Peng couldn't shake off thoughts of his recent acquisitions, lingering on the new possessions he had acquired. Yet, despite his excitement, there was still a lingering concern weighing on Gao Peng's mind. During their meeting in Feng Xiu's office, Gao Peng was informed that Feng Xiu wanted him to serve as the representative of Chang'an City in the upcoming World Monster Trainers competition. He elaborated that Chang'an City had been lacking in skilled trainers and enthusiasm in recent years. Thus, he conveyed to Gao Peng that by representing their city, there was a chance to bring about a positive change and make a significant difference. He pointed out that the competition didn't impose a strict age limit, implying that Gao Peng could participate regardless of his relatively young age. However, Feng Xiu expressed his belief that despite Gao Peng's age, he possessed significant potential and skill. However, Gao Peng held a different perspective. In response, Feng Xiu emphasized to him the significant stakes involved in accepting the offer. As a result, Gao Peng's interest began to peak. He made the decision to commit, informing Feng Xiu that he would indeed enter the competition and proudly represent their city. With determination, Gao Peng assured Feng Xiu that he would participate in the competition and proudly represent their city. On the bus, Gao Peng found himself contemplating whether he truly intended to follow through and join the competition. The passengers whispered among themselves about the rare, undead monster ahead, as it was the first time many of them had ever encountered such a creature. A man expressed interest in attempting to handle the creature. Suddenly, unseen strings ensnared the man's hands, rendering him immobile. Feeling the man's presence, Dummy swiftly turned around. Meanwhile, Gao Peng remained lost in his thoughts, unaware of the unfolding events around him. Growing agitated, Dummy swiftly bound the man with its strings. It then directed its attention to the man's eyes, seemingly preparing to make contact. However, Gao Peng's sudden call drew Dummy's attention away from the man, causing it to release its grip and focus on what Gao Peng had to say. Furthermore, Gao Peng assured Dummy that he would diligently work to provide for them both. The onlookers were astounded by Gao Peng's ability to command such obedience from the monster. Eventually, Gao Peng and Dummy disembarked from the bus. However, an unusual sensation emanated from behind them. It was rapidly closing in on them with alarming speed. Dummy swiftly detected its presence. It pushed Gao Peng aside, positioning itself to shield him from the impending danger. Moments later, it sprang into action, defending Gao Peng from the threat. Dummy then pivoted, catching sight of the approaching monster and taking note of its appearance. Meanwhile, Gao Peng voiced his complaints to Dummy, questioning why it had shoved him so forcefully. Dummy positioned itself in front of Gao Peng as a protective barrier, but Gao Peng quickly understood and appreciated its actions. He expressed his gratitude, realizing that Dummy was simply acting out of concern for his well-being. However, Gao Peng reassured Dummy, advising it not to fret. He gestured towards Daisy, introducing it to Dummy. However, Gao Peng was taken aback by something unexpected. Shortly after, Hanwu arrived and explained that Daisy and she were there to pick him up. Gao Peng quickly voiced his complaint to Hanwu about Daisy's bulky appearance. Hanwu explained that Daisy's bulky appearance was due to the abundance of food she had given him. However, his system alerted him to the fact that Daisy was excessively overnourished. But Hanwu countered, explaining that Daisy had been too skinny before, which prompted her to provide him with ample food. Meanwhile, Dummy observed Daisy intently. Daisy continued to hiss at Dummy, but Dummy chose to ignore the provocation. Furthermore, Hanwu eagerly inquired about Gao Peng's exam experience. He began by explaining that he successfully upgraded a monster. He elaborated that the association had given him the monster as a bonus reward for his successful experiment. Hanwu was taken aback to learn that Gao Peng had received an intermediate monster trainer certificate. So, Gao Peng showed it to her to further confirm the validity of his claim. Hanwu smiled in response. She expressed to Gao Peng that his growth had pleasantly surprised her. Suddenly, Gao Peng felt a sense of curiosity as Hanwu seemed poised to discuss something with him. She explained that monster trainers held such high status because, despite the strength of the monsters they wielded, those creatures were inherently monstrous. The Imperial Master Technique is a method where any damage a trainer sustains is seamlessly shifted to their monster, effectively transferring all of it. Gao Peng shares a deep connection with the spiritual energy of his monsters. Once Gao Peng discovered this connection, he sensed a bond with Dazi, as if they were linked by an unseen thread. Shortly thereafter, Gao Peng finished cultivating his energy. Suddenly, he spotted Dazi beside him. He remarked to Dazi about how much he had grown since their last encounter. He playfully patted Dazi and sarcastically likened him to a plump purple pig. Upon hearing Dazi's complaints, he instructed Dummy to fetch a mirror. Dazi was stunned into stillness when he caught sight of his reflection in the mirror. Feeling disheartened by his bulky appearance, Dazi sank into a moment of gloom. But Gao Peng was quick to offer him comfort and reassurance. In an instant, he envisioned soaring through the sky with Big Dazi and realized he wouldn't want to be flying alongside a hefty centipede. On the second day, Hanwu and Gao Peng rendezvoused at Chang'an City. Hanwu waved at Gao Peng and beckoned him to come over. She greeted him warmly and reassured him that it was no trouble to wait for him. As they walked, Hanwu mentioned to Gao Peng that they needed to pick something up. Gao Peng then inquired whether the building they were renting was expensive. Hanwu then explained that she rented it because business was thriving. Suddenly, Gao Peng sensed something peculiar about Hanwu. Hanwu led the way and suggested to Gao Peng that they should head upstairs. As they approached the elevator, she reaffirmed everything she had mentioned earlier. She then assured him not to worry, mentioning that being a monster trainer was actually quite straightforward. Gao Peng asked Hanwu if his salary was too high, but Hanwu reassured him that he didn't need to worry because they were in need of a monster trainer. He couldn't believe he was being offered such a generous opportunity. However, as he looked at Hanwu, he knew he could trust her, given her watchful eye over him for the past 3 years. So he chose to set aside any lingering doubts about Hanwu and focus on the positive aspects of the opportunity ahead. Afterward, he expressed to her that he would be more than willing to listen to her guidance and instructions. As he agreed, Hanwu expressed her own desire for a fruitful and harmonious cooperation between them. However, in her mind, she couldn't shake off the nerves as she noticed Gao Peng seemed to hesitate for a moment. Finally, they reached the 3rd floor, and upon their arrival, they were greeted by someone. Hanwu introduced Quanquan to Gao Peng as their receptionist. Shortly after, Hanwu informed Gao Peng that she would be leaving first since she had already explained everything. After she left, both of them felt a bit awkward. But Gao Peng still made an effort to engage in conversation with Quanquan. Quanquan then suggested that they should begin by gathering the necessary registration information. While Gao Peng waited, Quanquan glanced at him and pondered how young he appeared. Quanquan was astonished by Gao Peng's intermediate monster trainer certificate. On the other hand, Gao Peng calmly sipped his tea. He believed that he would progress rapidly if he simply adhered to the correct guidelines. He was aware that he could still earn a significant amount of money in that company. Shortly after, Quanquan handed him his certificate and informed him that his information had been entered into the system. Upon hearing this, Gao Peng asked her to directly explain what she meant. Suddenly, a man interjected, explaining that it meant Gao Peng would have to demonstrate his ability. He swiftly approached Gao Peng and assured him that if he could heal his monster, he would pay him 10 times the amount he requested. The man stated that he would offer 10 times the original price if he promoted his monster. Gao Peng then suggested that he could simply triple the price since his first job, surprising the man with his confidence in his ability to accomplish the task. Gao Peng then informed the man that he would need to see the monster before providing an accurate response. So, the man brought out a small box and told Gao Peng that he would trust him. He brought out his beast and showed them that it was weakened. As he showed it, he asked Gao Peng if he could cure it. When Gao Peng saw it, the system instantly displayed the information of the beast. Suddenly, Gao Peng noticed something wrong. The system urged him to cure the beast as soon as possible, warning of potential complications that could arise soon. Gao Peng quickly asked the man what he had given to the beast. The man then sadly informed him that he had given his beast a jade mushroom. So, Gao Peng swiftly considered what he should do next in the process. Shortly after, the system showed him how the beast could potentially evolve completely. Afterwards, he listed the items for Quanquan to acquire them immediately. Gao Peng then informed the man that he would cover the cost of all the materials himself. Moreover, he reassured the beast not to worry, promising that he would not fail to help it evolve. Quickly, they headed straight to the treatment room. Gao Peng changed into appropriate attire and prepared himself. Looking at Gao Peng, Quanquan, and the man, they appeared scared by what he was about to do. It appeared to them as if Gao Peng was going to cook the beast. Shortly after, Gao Peng threw the beast into the pot, which frightened the man. The beast fell unconscious while it was in the pot. Gao Peng then jokingly asked the man if he wanted to taste the rat soup. But eventually, he told him not to be nervous and to look at his beast. As the man looked, he was surprised. He saw that his beast was comfortable, as Gao Peng explained that it was a medicinal bath. But the man remained scared whenever he looked at Gao Peng. However, he realized that he didn't have a choice and needed to trust him. 10 minutes later, he asked Gao Peng if the experiment was not yet finished, and Gao Peng replied that it was almost time. Suddenly, the pot started to tremble. It exploded, and the lid was blown off. It revealed the appearance of the beast, and it seemed like it was already healed. Shortly after, the beast woke up, and its eyes changed. It began to move swiftly throughout the room. As it moved with such speed, everything got messy. The man was happy to see that Gao Peng's experiment worked, and his beast had truly evolved. The system then showed that the beast was of perfect quality, and Gao Peng remarked that the man had made a good decision. Consequently, the man felt grateful toward Gao Peng and thanked him for what he had done. Shortly after, Gao Peng brought out a list of expenses that the man needed to pay. He then gave it to Quanquan and instructed her to send it to him. As he was leaving, the man asked Gao Peng if he could look at his other beast and make an appointment. The man told Gao Peng that money wasn't a problem and that he could pay as much as necessary. But Gao Peng told the man that he had a class tomorrow and didn't have time. Quickly, he picked up his clothes. He bid goodbye and told them that he needed to go home and do his homework. The man and Quanquan were surprised to learn that Gao Peng was still a student and couldn't believe how much skill he had. Hanwu lounged comfortably as he gazed intently at the shimmering golden crystal. She requested her creature to transport the golden crystal. Her creature swiftly set off. The creature made a beeline for Gao Peng's room, where Daisy was taking a rest. Shortly after, it tossed the golden crystal into the room. Daisy noticed the crystal lying on the floor. Both Dummy and Daisy were intrigued by the appearance of the golden crystal. But suddenly, Daisy consumed it. He chewed the crystal and found it surprisingly tasty. However, shortly after, he began to feel unwell. Dummy grew concerned as Daisy started to exhibit odd behavior and appear unwell all of a sudden. Meanwhile, Gao Peng was walking home. He pondered Daisy's evolution and the difficulty of finding the necessary items for it. Suddenly, he heard a commotion nearby and quickly surmised that it must involve his monsters. He grew concerned, fearing that something might have happened at home. Gao Peng quickly rushed and began to run. He hurriedly ascended the stairs. Finally, He reached his door. As he swung the door open, he found Daisy acting strangely on the floor. The system displayed Daisy's information and alerted Gao Peng that Daisy was currently undergoing evolution. He was taken aback when he realized that Daisy had consumed the crystal core of a centipede. He wondered how Daisy had come into possession of the crystal. Suddenly, he felt Hanwoo peering over his shoulder. He quickly inquired if she was the one who had given Daisy the crystal. His anger flared as he demanded to know why she had done it so suddenly. Hanwoo explained that if she had told him in advance, he wouldn't have accepted it. Shortly after, Hanwoo brought down the groceries that Gao Peng had left behind. She quickly exited Gao Peng's house, bidding him goodbye. Before he could say a word, Hanwoo entered her home and shut the door behind her. Afterwards, Gao Peng scolded Daisy for consuming the golden crystal. He sat on the ground, pondering what he needed to complete Daisy's upgrade. He retrieved a bunch of items, but none of them proved to be of any help. Finally, he spotted a medicinal flower that could aid Daisy's evolution. Gao Peng quickly dashed to the kitchen to prepare the drink. After finishing it, he handed the drink to Daisy to consume. As Daisy drank it, something peculiar began to occur. Daisy emitted a powerful light that even shone through the window. After the smoke dissipated, Daisy's transformed appearance became apparent. His appearance changed, and he grew even stronger. Shortly after, the system informed him that Daisy's evolution was a success. Seeing this, Gao Peng felt relieved and filled with happiness. Suddenly, Daisy collapsed to the ground, surprising both Gao Peng and Dummy. Dummy grew worried, but Gao Peng assured him that there was no cause for concern, as Daisy had simply lost his strength temporarily. Gao Peng then rewarded Dummy with a treat for his kindness and concern. Dummy wondered what it was as he was about to eat it. When he ate it, it went straight to his core. Suddenly, Dummy felt something strange, but Gao Peng instructed him to keep eating. He explained to Dummy that the treat was meant to stabilize him, as he needed it. After a while, Daisy returned to his normal appearance. But when he woke up, he found Dummy and Gao Peng both asleep. At that moment, Daisy came up with an idea. He grabbed a blanket and hurried towards Gao Peng. Meanwhile, Hanwoo peeked through the window, curious about what Gao Peng was doing. She saw that they were all cuddled up and resting. The following day, the educators were engaged in a conversation about a weighty subject. In the principal's office, a man expressed frustration about the concept of students bringing their monsters to school. He stressed that the students lacked professional training. However, the man noted that they were powerless to act, acknowledging that times had changed. Upon hearing this, the man had a realization when the new principal mentioned that the available technologies at that time were still too slow. He elaborated that with the evolution of the monsters, they couldn't keep pace. Finally, Gao Peng attended his classes, but something weighed on his mind. His classmate asked him to confirm if he had truly obtained an intermediate monster trainer certificate, to which Gao Peng inquired how he knew about it. His classmate showed him the newspaper and informed him that his name was listed in it. Gao Peng felt embarrassed as all of his classmates were amazed. Shortly after, his classmates approached him with a request. However, Gao Peng quickly rejected the request. He informed his classmate that if the request would only benefit him and not others, then it wasn't a good deal. As a result, his classmate became angry. Suddenly, the teacher appeared and reprimanded the man. Shortly after, she stepped forward, preparing to make an announcement. She announced that there would be a course on beasts and also introduced a new special recruitment channel. She mentioned that it was a collaborative project between the Union Ministry of Education and the Union military. The students were taken aback by this sudden change and hadn't anticipated it. They panicked, thinking something was amiss due to the involvement of the military. All of a sudden, Gao Peng's name was called. the teacher asked him to step forward, as she needed to discuss something with him. She informed Gao Peng that the school wanted him to represent them because of his recent certification. However, Gao Peng expressed that he wasn't confident in delivering speeches. He then informed her that, in fact, he wanted to apply for the special student position of the Imperial Ambassador. However, the teacher told Gao Peng that it didn't make much sense for someone like him to pursue that position. Then she added something as she glanced outside. She informed him that there were other opportunities he could pursue that would earn him much more recognition. Outside, the Union military had arrived at the school grounds with their beasts. As Gao Peng contemplated his teacher's advice, he expressed gratitude for her consideration. But Gao Peng told her that he still wanted to learn more from actual combat training. He assured her that he could pursue both endeavors simultaneously. Hearing this, the teacher felt Gao Peng's sincerity. Shortly after, she bid goodbye to Gao Peng, and he lowered his head in respect. After a while, the students were gathered at the school grounds. Among the crowd, a man was waving at Gao Peng. The man was persistent and wanted to talk to him. He told Gao Peng about his long-time dream and expressed his desire not to waste the opportunity. But Gao Peng ignored him once more. As the students were gathered, they were amazed by the armored tank brought by the military. The colonel went to the stage as he was going to make a speech. Gao Peng and his friend were standing beside each other, wondering who the man was. The colonel exuded a strong presence. As a result, Gao Peng's friend grew scared, but Gao Peng himself was alarmed by the colonel's powerful aura. Shortly, the colonel began to speak and thank the students who had joined. He firmly told them that they must possess a strong will to proceed. The students became angry at the way he spoke, but the colonel didn't budge and brought out a beast, presenting it to them. The colonel has the creature next to him. He instructed the soldier to prepare the demonstration. In brief, the soldier told her that the sturdy armor they readied has been arranged. Upon hearing this, the colonel quietly urged the creature to launch an assault. The creature swiftly darted and sprinted towards the armor. The creature was nearing the armor. Effortlessly, the beast pounced on the armor, overpowering it and bringing it down with sheer force. Consequently, the armor crumbled. The beast's performance left the crowds utterly speechless. Gao Peng was also astonished by how the beast could demolish such a thick armor with ease. Later, the colonel remarked that the performance they witnessed exemplified the type of monsters they would train in the future, ones with a stronger will to kill. The colonel then offered the opportunity for anyone wishing to quit to do so at that moment. Meanwhile, Gao Peng wandered through the crowds. He observed that some people looked discouraged, with their heads down. Suddenly, the colonel shouted upon noticing some people with their heads down. The students were discouraged and seemed to have little hope, indicating that they may no longer wish to join. Furthermore, the colonel urged them to choose wisely and make the right decision. Suddenly, he looked at some students and emphasized that he didn't want quitters. Consequently, the students felt compelled to join. With the sun about to set, Gao Peng hurried back home. He lay down on the sofa, feeling exhausted. He reflected on what had happened earlier and realized how serious the situation was, more than he had initially thought. Suddenly, Dazi approached him, expressing hunger, while Dummy sat silently nearby. So Gao Peng got up and went to the kitchen. As he opened the drawer, he couldn't shake the thought that the elimination rate for the training was high. Suddenly, he was surprised to find that his belongings were missing. He panicked and searched around, realizing that his piles of cedar pine needles were missing. After a minute of searching, he only found one. He returned to the living room and asked Dazi what had happened. Dazi explained that the cedar pine needles had already been eaten. So Gao Peng realized that Dummy had eaten them. He told Dummy that next time, if he wanted to eat more, he had to tell him first. But Dummy became sad. so Gao Peng assured him that he didn't mean to be angry. Gao Peng sat on the sofa and opened his system, pondering Dummy's need for evolution. He examined the amount of cedar pine needles that Dummy needed to consume. He pondered that the more Dummy ate, the more beneficial substances were absorbed, potentially hastening their progression to the next evolution. Afterwards, he also thought about Daisy. He pondered that Daisy also needed to consume lightning power fruit to advance to perfect quality. Thinking about everything, he realized that it's not easy to have a big family. The next day, Gao Peng was surprised by the sight of the school grounds. He noticed a multitude of beasts roaming around with their masters. He also saw a large pig, which he thought was too exaggerated. Gao Peng confronted the pig's master and asked if she could shrink the beast to make more space. The beast was blocking the gate, so he told them to move it. The girl, reminiscing about her memories with the monster, felt saddened by how the pig had suddenly become big. Suddenly, one of the coach trainers arrived, asking what happened. He informed the girl that her beast was blocking the way. Suddenly, the man ordered his beast to handle the situation. Quickly, the beast sprang into action. The beast emanated a strong and ominous aura, which the pig monster immediately sensed. The monster immediately got up and moved away from the area because it was scared. Then, the trainer told them that if their show was done, they could start training. The students formed a queue in the park, each accompanied by their animal companion. The trainer announced that the initial training task was to teach a command to their animal, emphasizing its fundamental importance. The girl with the large creature felt shy due to the attention drawn to her because of her unusual companion. Additionally, as the trainer affectionately interacted with his own animal, he emphasized to the students the importance of understanding their beast's characteristics and preferences in order to effectively train them. As an illustration, one man brought black cat pork for his beast since it was its favorite, and he personally fed it to the animal. His interactions included playing with the beast, which led to the animal's resilience improving. The students were taken aback when the trainer announced that his beast possessed yet another notable strength. He informed them that in addition to its teeth and claws, the beast had additional methods of attack. Shortly after, he called upon one of his companions and requested a demonstration of his silver wolf's skills once more. His companion, Old Lai, remarked that they both owned the same type of beast, but utilized different training techniques. Shortly after, he hurled a rock, prompting the beast to swiftly move and catch it. Upon catching it, the rock effortlessly shattered into pieces in the beast's grasp. When the beast caught it, the rock easily broke into pieces. Witnessing this, Gao Peng and Daisy were astonished by the formidable biting power of the beast. Afterward, the trainer informed them that there are 5 categories in the classification of beasts: attack, defense, support, healing, and field control. The man provided an example of the green devil vine beast, illustrating that it can function as both a defensive and a control type. Following that, he concluded his speech and announced that they would proceed to training, having covered all the necessary information. He also reassured them that they need not worry about the availability of materials, as a large shipment of training materials had already been sent. While he spoke, Gao Peng pondered what Daisy needed in order to become stronger. He glanced at Daisy, realizing that the first priority should be improving defense, especially since Daisy had already mastered the secret art of offense. Suddenly, he pondered how the apes could manage to move such large boxes despite their small size. With that, he recalled reading about the fierce and warlike nature of apes, which made him consider their capability for strength and aggression. The first apes are trained by their parents from birth, instilling essential skills and behaviors for survival and interaction within their social group. As they grow, they develop the ability to strike rocks and mountain walls with impressive force, showcasing their increasing strength. As apes mature into adults, Their skin toughens over time due to repeated injuries, gradually becoming thicker and less susceptible to damage. Gao Peng considered the possibility of adopting the ape's method as a means to toughen himself and enhance his resilience. After a while, Gao Peng called Dazi, who was resting under the sun's warmth. He ordered Dazi to come closer, as he had already selected a material to use for their training. Shortly after, he unveiled a large weapon, which took Dazi by surprise. Dazi, overcome with fear of being struck, quickly fled from the scene. As a result, Gao Peng sprinted after Dazi, clutching the large weapon in his hand. After a while, he finally caught up to Dazi and struck him, rendering him unconscious. From that moment, a week had elapsed. Gao Peng's alarm rang at 7 in the morning. Quickly, he reached out and silenced it. He decided to sleep a bit more since he didn't have to go to training that day. However, a loud noise suddenly erupted, jolting him awake. He quickly got up and assured Dazi that he would prepare breakfast for him immediately. While cooking, he suddenly pondered that his skills had improved, even though only Dazi had been upgraded. Fortunately, Dazi reached level 10 within a week of training and had been lively ever since. But Gao Peng felt like crying because his body was growing tired, and the expenses for Dumbai were nearly consuming his entire salary. Suddenly, his phone began to ring. Dummy picked up his phone and answered the call. Dummy put the phone on speaker, and a voice identified itself as the general manager of Blue Shield Security Company. Suddenly, Gao Peng was caught off guard when he was informed that they would like to offer something that would greatly benefit him. They asked if he had time to talk in person.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up, leave a comment, and subscribe. And if you'd like to contribute further, you can now buy me a coffee. Every little bit helps in creating more quality content for you. Just click the Buy Me a Coffee link in the description below. And don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss a new video.